Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for investing your time with us today. My name is Doron Frenkel. I'm the CEO of Driivz, and I will be leading this panel. We have an amazing panel, which is the connected services for electric transportation. Electrification of transportation is happening. It is a fact. There are many moving parts in that, but we should always remember that eventually the most important piece of the puzzle is the driver. Without the driver, we don't have business. So today in our panel, we'll touch the various views and aspects of the ecosystem of EV charging, electrification of transportation, but it all will be focused on the driver and the driver needs. So let's take a few minutes for each one of the panelists to briefly introduce themselves and tell a little bit about the background and the current role that they have in the EV industry. Gilles, let's start with you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Gilles Normand. I am a Senior Vice President in charge of electric vehicle and mobility services at Group Renault. As you know, electric vehicle is about pioneering and leadership that we are doing in Europe. We have already a customer base of more than 300,000 customers here using battery electric vehicles. Our mobility services is two-front is car-based services like car sharing activities that we are deploying. And once again, we are leading this car sharing EV activity in Europe. Or digital platforms, which are very important, especially through Karoo, which is a taxi and ride-hailing aggregator, or EKB, which is taxi dispatch. So we are already embracing new mobility services.
Stefan?
Hello, I'm Stefan Herr. I'm working for E.ON. And yes, as you know, E.ON offers mobility solutions for AC/DC. So for every situation the customer is at work, at home, at public, we are operating a large amount of charge points. And we, after the merger with Innogy, we are really active in the whole value chain with consulting, with hardware development from the Innogy part, with installation, operation, and services. We operate our own back end. We develop our own hardware. So I'm especially working for the E.ON Group Innovation. Our mission is to shortly explore, build, and scale. So we evaluate new business developments, try to launch it for the E.ON core business. My background is very long. I'm involved in the eMobility business since the start. So 10 years ago, I built up the eMobility unit in 2008. I was involved in the first hardware development with a project lead in ISO 15118. And yeah, in between, I did some other innovation tasks, launching products, digital products, and then returned to eMobility, responsible for the DC portfolio, especially. And since 1.5 years, I'm in innovation for Innogy and now E.ON. Focus is hardware and business models based on data-driven models. So that is my background.
And John? Can you present
Thank you. So hello, everyone. So I'm John Salked from BP. I've spent my career leading disruptive innovation in a variety of companies, including BP, Kinetic, ICI, and Schlumberger. And about 4 years ago, I was one of the founders of BP's Advanced Mobility Unit. I moved over from running automotive product development for our old internal combustion business. And I'm responsible for technology here, but also keeping a keen disruptive strategic eye as to how we address the very complex and uncertain shifts that we're moving through. So BP's AMU, effectively, we look at how BP remains relevant in a world where you see, first of all, the shift from internal combustion to electric vehicles, but then from personally owned mobility into something more akin to mobility as a service.
Thank you, John. So my name is Doron Frenkel. I am the CEO and founder of Driivz. I have 25 years of experience in international business with in the telco industry, in the fleet industry, and years of experience in the EV space. I founded Driivz 8 years ago, looking at two major revolutions, the energy revolution and the mobility revolution, starting with the mobility, and then we found out that energy is a critical part of the ecosystem. My mission is to walk across industry, to partner with the leading partners, and to create a better world and environment to our children. So a bit about Driivz. We have developed an operating system that serves large EV charging operators globally. We are operating in 18 countries with hundreds of thousands of drivers of the platforms, with a lot of chargers. We have developed a platform which is end-to-end, but it's modular to serve the entire ecosystem. And since we founded Driivz, we are now working across South America, Europe, Asia. We have large customers like EVgo, the fast charging network in the US, Centrica, Gilles, ILA, DSB, and Ches. And our mission is to assist the large providers to cope with the complexity in the industry and make sure that the drivers and fleets has the best tools for them to manage their business. So that's a bit about myself, and let's get into some discussion with the team members. So, Gilles, the first items that I will want to ask you is a bit about the current size and growth of the BEV, the battery EV market so far, and how do you see the key levers towards the tipping point? What is the tipping point? How do we get there? You have a major impact as a leading OEM, a leading automaker. So please share with us your thoughts about it.
Yeah, thank you. Many questions, but you're right. We should start by the market. So the global battery electric vehicle BEV market, as we can see, last year was 1.6 million units of new car sales. So this means about 2% of the total market. So yes, it's a niche. It's a small niche, but it's growing. As you know, last year the market, global automotive market, was at best steady, stable, and in most countries it even went down, while the EV segment went up 28%. So it means that it's small, but it's growing. It's growing at a pace which is significantly higher than what is normal for the automotive industry. About 60% of the market is in China, and Europe is the second largest part of this market. 25%, one-fourth of the global market is in Europe. And since the beginning of the year, 2020, and despite the situation we have been experiencing since March, obviously, we have a growth of 50% of the BEV segment in Europe. And BEV segment in Europe is already representing about 4% of the total registered new car sales in Europe as we speak in 2020. Then your question is about the levers. It's very important to understand what are the levers to go to what we call the famous tipping point. What does that mean, tipping point? Tipping point is where you are no longer a niche player, but you are starting to wait in the market. We put the threshold at around 10% of the global or European sales volume of new car sales in a year. That would be a good milestone to achieve. 10%, as I said, this year we are around 4%. So we think before 2025, we can cross the line of 10%. And there are 4 levers fundamentally to reach this. The first one are the technical levers. For auto electric vehicles, people want more driving range. And we are developing this. For instance, the new Zoe, we have now already a 400 kilometers, close to 400 kilometers real usage, double TP range, and the next generation product will go beyond 500 or 550 kilometers. So it's very important. We need as well to develop an easy charging experience. It's very important. And in a minute, I will ask some question about Stefan on this, because we know that a lot is being done in order to promote easy charging experience. But apart from the technical levers, we need as well to address the economical levers. Why? Because electric vehicles are still more expensive than traditional IC car, internal combustion engine cars. Why? Because the technology is more expensive, but we are improving. The cost of the batteries measured in dollar, euro per kilowatt hour is going down every year. And this is important in order to reduce the cost of the electric vehicle. But more importantly, we're as well working on the total cost of ownership, improving the residual values of our EVs. Already in Europe, in some countries, residual value of our EVs is higher than the residual value of IC peer. And it's very important because if we can, and this is our objective by the next 2 years, be on par with a TCO of an IC car with an EV, then more customers will find economical benefit to go to EVs. The third lever is very important, is a customer lever. It's about customer experience. Very positive word of mouth about EVs. When you go to EVs, 99% of the customers tell us they are not going to go back to IC car because it's so fun to drive, it's so pleasant, it's so quiet, no vibration, no emissions. And obviously, the experience is important, but there is as well something very important. 1 decade ago, when we started at Group Renault, we were among the very few to believe in this technology. But now most OEMs came, and you will have an offer increase, significant increase, moving from 70 models globally to more than 300 models, pure EVs, by 2022, 2023. And customers like to have choices. And obviously, there is a fourth lever, very important, which is regulations. Because we need to curb CO2 emission, we need to curb particulate emissions, and we know EVs, battery electric vehicles, are very good to answer those 2 dimensions. Everything included, even including battery production, we are much healthier in terms of CO2 emission. And this is why it's quite important, I guess, that we develop further those layers. And this is why, if you allow me, Doron, I'd like to ask directly to Stefan how he can help me in this quest to overcome the levers, especially how the charging experience can be significantly improved from a user perspective. Stefan, please.
Yeah, Gilles, you're absolutely right. It must be easy, the charging experience, and sometimes it's still complicated. We all know the situation that we are standing in front of the charge point. It's defect. It's not working. I don't have the right app for the authentication. It stops. It's busy. A combustion engine is at the charge point, and yeah, that is what we have improved from the customer experience. First is the maintenance, or better saying, the predictive maintenance of a charge point. So we see at the moment that a vast majority of our charge points are error-free and charging is really possible, but we really have to improve the couple of charge points who are not working, and that we have to do before the customer complains or is at the charge point. So that is what we're doing at NOG. We want to detect abnormal operation, and also we should have a full transparency. What is hindering the charging? Is it the vehicle? Is it the charger? Is it the backend communication? Is it the communication to the roaming partner? I think there is some room for improvement to really predict failures before they happen. The other thing is what I think what it could improve the charging experience is the whole roaming stuff, payment, authentication. There's really difficult interoperability between different CPOs, EMPs. We have to.
The seamless experience is very fundamental, I guess, for customer. I've been using EVs, I can tell you.
I mean,
do you have any technology in particular to make charging even more convenient?
I would say so. Either we have to improve roaming and stop that different RFID cards, different apps, different pricing that's completely intransparent, and push forward ad hoc payments at the infrastructure that you can pay via QR codes, NFC, PayPal, whatever. I can see a strong tendency in DC hardware that's implemented, but we should also push that forward for the AC hardware. And not only this kind of payment, also reservation fees. I mean, when I'm at the highway and the charger is free, but when I arrive, it's not free. That sucks. So really, reservation fees make the customer easy as well with combined fees. Park and charge fees, for example, could also help. Why should I pay for parking and additional for charging? So I think that's a lot of things we could improve and make the customer experience even better. Yeah.
Stefan, would you like to see if you have any questions to John?
So should we also talk about the convenient charging, make it more convenient, or should we move forward? So I think there's also, in the convenience perspective, there's a lot we can do. Charging is uncomfortable, Gilles. I have to manually connect the vehicle to the charging station. Imagine it's raining, I have disconnected, it's wet, it's dirty. I think that could also improve with new technologies, and I see it as a mega trend, convenience as well. So the easiest thing is plug and charge. So ISO 50118, yes, obviously I'm a fan of ISO 50118, but that helps that I do not have to authenticate. I just have to plug in and it's going automatically. But thinking that a little bit further is, I think new technology will come where we can go in automatic charging. That's inductive charging. In my opinion, a great option for AC where no user intervention is needed. I think that's getting mainstream. I'm used to charge wireless with a mobile phone, with smart furniture and everything. And I also think that robotized charging, in my opinion, is also relevant in the future to automate charging. So heavy cable, customer complaints about the heavy DC cables, especially in the truck business, people or the driver is busy with unloading and loading and not plugging in the charging cable. I think that technology will help a lot to make it more convenient for the customer as well. And I think a great push will come from autonomous vehicles. So John, you are, I think at BP, you are a specialist on fast charging. So how can adoption of UFC in vehicles help to drive a broader EV adoption? And I think what technologies do you see, especially in UFCs, which new features?
So yeah, we within BP very much kind of believe in ultra-fast charging as an important component in building broader EV adoption. I mean, first of all, you have to recognize that running an EV is fundamentally different to running an internal combustion car, yeah, and particularly when it comes to refueling. With internal combustion, the experience is the same in terms of slosh it in the tank, pay and drive off, irrespective of whether you're in a scooter or flying a jet aircraft. But when it comes down to EVs, every use case is very different. And if you stick with slow charging, then essentially only a small number of use cases are still feasible. I mean, essentially only those where you can guarantee the ability to charge overnight and then stick to the range of the car during the day. But that leaves a lot of use cases behind. As a consumer, if you don't have the ability to charge at home, or if you wish to travel longer distances, then you're really in trouble. But more importantly, if you look towards the growing commercial use cases, so for example, taxi or last mile delivery drivers, it's really critical to be able to top up rapidly during the day. So we believe that if you can get refueling times down to around 10 to 15 minutes, then you can enable those quick top-ups and essentially offer unlimited driving during the day. But technologically, you're quite right, it's a very tricky kind of set of technologies that are needed in order to deliver that. First of all, of course, you need batteries that can charge at very high powers, or what we call C rate. And to do so without degradation. So, for example, just down the road from you in Herzliya, there's a company called StoreDot that, together with Daimler, we invested in last year. I know that Renault, Nissan have also invested in an ultra-fast charging company. So I think that's very important. Then you've got thermal management. So I often think of 350 kilowatts, which is pretty much the top end of power. That would boil a kettle in around about 1 second. So it just gives you an idea of how much energy is involved, and even small resistance losses will heat the battery pack very rapidly. I mean, luckily within BP, we have Castrol, which is one of the world leaders in fluid technology, and we're conducting some very interesting work with a number of partners to try to push that further forward. But then, of course, you've got other aspects. I mean, power electronics, and actually a field where Israel has some very interesting startup activity. And then we're into the connector issues of, do you stick with a cable or go robotic or wireless in order to charge the vehicle? And I think the answer, as with everything, will be a mix of those technologies, and all very dependent upon which use case it is you're trying to deal with. Now, of course, I've talked a lot about the hardware there because, Stefan, you spoke so well about kind of some of the kind of back-end software that's required. ISO 15118, by the way, I'm a huge fan. I drive a Tesla, and even though it's a slightly tweaked implementation, that ability to plug your car in and not have to tap a card is just fantastic. Then there's also a lot of the consumer experience that you need to deliver. And some of the back office integration that just brings the whole lot together. So, Doron, I've realised you've been kind of pretty quiet here, so very keen to hear from you, particularly being the local boy. So maybe just tell us a little bit around how technology can help industry players to optimise that EV driver experience and to increase that all-important customer satisfaction.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I was quiet, not as usual. So what we see is that when you are, as a driver, what's important for you is to do your ongoing tasks. You want to have fun, you need your business. Certainly, if you are a fleet driver, you have business to do. So the number one thing that we see as a major issue is the stability of the chargers. I think that also Stefan mentioned that. Stability of the chargers is a key issue. So what we have developed tools which, from one hand, finds the issues, but not only find issues, but solving the issues in over 80% of the cases that can be solved remotely. We are solving it automatically based on algorithms that we have developed. So what we want is to achieve an environment when you get into the charger that from the driver perspective, it works. And we are doing that with over 130 different types of chargers. So we want an ecosystem of chargers that works fine for the drivers, that just come in. If they have 1511.8, we like 1511.8 as well, and it's fine. If not, either plug and charge by some of the vendors or connect and make your best, to then find the network. And then we're talking about usability. So roaming is a key thing. In Europe, you have different roaming platforms like Hubject, Giraffe, eClearing.net.
Yeah.
In the US, until recently, they didn't have any roaming platform. But actually, we took a protocol called OCPI that we are using in Europe, and we've implemented that in the US. So EVgo is one of our customers. They are the largest network, fast charging network over there. We have integrated by OCPI and did roaming protocols between ChargePoint and EVgo. So each driver from EVgo can charge on the ChargePoint network and vice versa. And now we are doing that with other providers, with the other providers in the US. That's something that eventually will come to Israel. Israel is not there yet. There are some discussions, but we are not there yet. So roaming is a key. The other thing is usability, and usability is from a driver perspective, route planning and billing plans that we have mentioned, but it's also from the fleet perspective. How do you know where to park? How do you know from a fleet manager perspective that there is enough energy in the place? How do you manage all your business in a daily life? That's something that we put as a task, and we have developed white label tools, both for the drivers, the fleet drivers, private drivers, and for the fleet operators to manage all this environment in an easy-to-use kind of a way. Because as I said, we believe that sophistication should be inside the tools, inside the platform, and outside it must be easy to use. And then we get into another thing is, when we get into the tipping point and we have a lot of EVs, how about the energy? What about the energy? Do we have enough energy to provide the cars? So the drivers are charging everywhere. They charge at home, work, public, semi-public. They charge everywhere. How will that impact the entire grid? How can we cope with that? So we've started to look at that. We are managing large networks since 2014. And we are talking about thousands of chargers, then tens of thousands, hopefully soon more. With roaming, we have hundreds of thousands. How do you manage and balance the energy? So we looked at that and we noticed that you need to manage the energy in the charger level, in the parking lot level, and the campus level. And if you don't have enough energy, you need to add batteries and renewables. If you have a lot of chargers, like in the building that I'm in now, we don't have enough energy for all the EVs. So what do? We have special algorithms to balance the energy and make sure that we are using the grid in the best possibly way, so the drivers will not need to bother. And there is another issue of price. So there are different prices throughout the day. So instead of the drivers clicking in when to charge and how, we are doing it automatically with algorithms that are doing that for the drivers. So the overall thing is, it's a really complex environment, but we need to make it easy. And we have a lot of stakeholders. So it's the car manufacturers, and it's the drivers and the fleets and the operators, the EV charging operators, and then you have the charging owners and the location owners, and then you have the grid and the energy producers. All of that needs to play together. How do you do that? You do that by working together, by collaborating, by joining forces to develop the right protocols. We have a European project of managing mass-scale EV charging in the Netherlands, Germany, and Austria, where we are looking at the future protocols of how all of that can be balanced. Then you need to look at energy profiles of the drivers, of the sites. All of this complexity needs to be seamless to the driver. It needs to be really, really easy to use. So we're looking at usability, making sure that the chargers are stable, they can work, they can do that, they can work for the drivers. Drivers can reserve, can charge, whether it's fast, if they need to go, and if they are on the way, and if it's at home, they have time, or workplace, they can either charge fast or slow depending on their needs. And what we are trying is to provide tools to the entire key stakeholders to manage their business in an easy way, but also to make money out of it. And beyond all of that, if we have more time, then okay, we don't have more time, so we'll have to wrap it up now. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the session. I'm leaving you with a lot of food for thought, and thank you so much for the cooperation of the panelists. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Very interesting. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.